When King Faisal of Saudi Arabia decreed late last year that his kingdom would ship no more oil to countries sympathetic to Israel, we Americans were made abruptly aware of just how powerful a man is Faisal, how important to our economy, indeed to our entire lifestyle. When Henry Kissinger set out to try to work his magic for disengagement in the Middle East, he stopped off in Riyadh, Faisal's capital, not once but several times, and they were no mere courtesy calls. For with Faisal's blessing in the Middle East, much is possible. Saudi Arabia's oil weapon is sheathed now. The Saudi team left Washington yesterday after negotiating promises of American industrial, technical, military, and scientific assistance. And President Nixon will make his own pilgrimage to Riyadh this week during his hijrah to the Middle East. What manner of country will he visit? And what manner of man is Faisal? When King Faisal was born in 1905, there was no Saudi Arabia, no Israel, and not a hint that beneath the desert of his barren land there were billions of dollars worth of oil. Faisal was only one of 40 sons of the warlord who created Saudi Arabia, King Ibn Saud. If he is first among them now, and has been for a decade, he has arrived at this eminence by intellect, shrewdness, energy. His father had unified the warring tribes of the Arabian Peninsula, and tribal allegiance, the solidarity of the royal princes, remains the bedrock of the Saudi power structure. There is no constitution, there are no political parties, no legislature nor free press. The king rules absolutely. If Faisal bows to the tradition of receiving petitions weekly from his subjects, he makes it apparent that it is mere formality. They file past him with barely time for a kiss of allegiance, a hurried word. Justice is swift and summary here. Hands are severed for a third offense of stealing. The law is the holy book, the Koran. Faisal is a deeply religious man, a disciple of the Puritan principles of the Wahhabi sect of Islam that his father imposed upon the kingdom. He is the keeper of the holy places of Islam, the Sharif of Mecca, to which 500 million Muslims throughout the world turn for prayer each day and long to come on pilgrimage. Faisal's land is huge and largely empty. Almost 900,000 square miles, and not more than 3% of it is settled or even arable. About 6 million people are scattered in this emptiness, suffering heat that boils up to 120 degrees and more in summer. There are only 3 major cities across the peninsula, from the Red Sea to the Persian Gulf, a land a quarter the size of the United States. The capital in the middle of the country is Riyadh. Riyadh is a strange city. It is the seat of government. The king resides here, and yet the foreign embassies, those who have to do business with the king and his council of ministers, are in Jeddah, 700 miles away. It is as though in the United States, the president and the Congress stayed in Washington and the foreign embassies moved to New York City. Only 30 years ago, Riyadh was a small village. Today, it is a new city, struggling to be modern. Mud houses and tribal fortresses are giving way to shopping bazaars and traffic jams. But you will not see in all the mercantile welter a movie house. They are not allowed. Nor a bar. Alcohol is officially forbidden, though a Saudi host can usually find some for a guest. It is here, though, that the world has focused its anxiety in recent months. The installations around Dhahran on the Persian Gulf, seat of Saudi Arabia's preeminence as the single most important oil exporter in the world. The first discovery was made near here in 1938 by 2 geologists from Standard Oil of California. That year, Saudi Arabia's oil income was $108,000. This year, 1974, that income will be $20 billion. Saudi Arabia owns, beneath its sand, almost a third of the world's known reserves of oil. More than Kuwait, more than Iran across the Gulf, and 4 times as much as the United States. The oil has been exploited by an American company called Aramco, the Arabian-American Oil Company, a consortium owned till last year jointly by Standard Oil of California, Texaco, Exxon, and Mobil. Last year, the Saudis demanded and got a quarter interest in Aramco by promising to pay $500 million. Aramco's port at Ras Tanura is the most formidable in the world in vessels loaded and oil tonnage shipped. It has the biggest storage tanks. Its pipelines stretch from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean. Its production costs are the lowest and its profits the highest in the industry. Aramco last year made a profit of over $3 billion. Multiply that 4 times to match the increase in the price of oil, and you'll compute the take for 1974. The chairman of Aramco has worked in the Saudi Arabian desert for most of the past quarter century. Frank Jungers and his colleagues have fashioned in the eastern province an American enclave at Dhahran.
That's it.
5,000 expatriates living in the sun in a microcosm of suburbia that might have been lifted whole from the outskirts of Houston, Texas. But there is a cloud now on Dhahran's horizon, the threat, indeed the virtual promise, of a 100% takeover of Aramco by the Saudis. Would that be, for Frank Jungers, a case of love's labor lost?
I really don't see this as an empire that's slipping away. I think the company, Aramco, will be here about as we think of it for quite a while. There may be different ownership.
The steward of that different ownership is Sheikh Ahmed Zaki Al-Yamani, the Saudi Minister of Petroleum. American educated, like so many of the Saudi ruling class, he has been chief architect and chief advocate for King Faisal's oil policy. Are we witnessing the end of the major oil companies as we have come to know them?
Not exactly the end, but definitely we're seeing a new era in the oil industry in which the oil companies are not playing the same role as they used to do in the past.
Everything will belong to you, and then you will simply hire them to perform the functions of bringing the oil to market.
Yes. We think they also belong to us. Aramco as such, as an entity, is a Saudi asset.
Of all the top and middle management jobs at Aramco, Americans hold 9 out of 10. Ali Naimi is one of the few Saudis who has so far made his way to the top.
Yeah, taken care of. Yeah, to do all the preventive maintenance.
He started 25 years ago as a mail boy. Aramco sent him to the States for university training in geology and hydrology. At 38, he is in charge of production at the Gawar oil field, Aramco's largest. He is responsible for the production of 5 million barrels a day.
There is an extreme demand for educated Saudis. As a matter of fact, it's very difficult for us, Aramco, to hire Saudi engineers, for instance, that we need, because there are other companies, government departments competing for the same source.
One wonders whether there will be enough Saudis to go around in difficult technical work.
Well, I think for some time we will be importing this expertise for quite some time, I'm sure.
You mean perhaps for a quarter century?
At least.
Ali Naimi began like this boy, a Bedouin. That he was able to find his way up with Aramco's help was extraordinary. But today, King Faisal is committing hundreds of millions of dollars to lure the Bedouins into settling down because, most of all, he wants to educate their children. Money is no problem in Saudi Arabia. They have that. What they need, says Sheikh Yamani, is skilled manpower.
A large portion of our population are nomadic, and we have to run after them. It's the only country which has a mobile schools. we run after the Bedouins in the desert to teach them, and this is very costly. I think our expenditure per capita is much higher than anywhere in the world.
1/3 of the entire Saudi budget goes for education. Sheikh Yamani's special pride is the Petroleum College in Dhahran, close by Aramco headquarters. Its spectacular facilities are matched by the quality of its teachers. It proposes to become the finest technological college in the Middle East, cradle of a breed of Saudi technicians who will be able to manage the industrial revolution in their land.
It's the same. Like if I hit this key, I get the letter F. If I hit this key, I will get a period or full stop.
From Saudi Arabia's embarrassment of riches, hundreds of millions of dollars are beginning now to irrigate at least the fringes of her vast deserts. Another effort to lure the nomad to farm the land. Till now, he has found the tending of his sheep a more noble task. But in a country where 3/4 of the foodstuffs have to be imported, irrigation and farm settlements have finally become a government-financed priority. Hospitals, too, are multiplying. In Riyadh, this King Faisal hospital, at a cost of $80 million, is promised to be the most modern in the Middle East. 18 computers and a staff of 1,000, mainly foreigners, will run it. Surprising for so wealthy a nation, Saudi Arabia's defense establishment is modest. The army consists mainly of a national guard for border patrols and ceremonial parades. There is no internal security problem and no physical contact with Israel. It is the Saudi Air Force which has the only modern striking power. Since October, the Saudis have been buying more missiles, more planes. Their old American F-5s and British Strike Masters, on display at this graduation day flypast at Riyadh Air Force Academy, are being augmented with more sophisticated arms. French Mirage, American FE fighters and trainers. The Saudis admire American technology. After the oil embargo was lifted in March, the special relationship established by Dr. Kissinger with King Faisal showed itself. $250 million worth of Hawk missiles are in the pipeline. Saudi missile men are receiving their training in English.
Now we check the azimuth.
Their American advisors stayed discreetly off camera. America and Europe are today exchanging weapons for oil, but cautiously. It is not only weapons, but consumer goods, indeed whole factories that the foreigners are trying to sell the Saudis. Lured by the zooming profits of the oil fields, commercial pilgrims are coming to a different kind of Mecca. The Japanese are here, the French, the British, the Americans, not just their salesmen, their technicians too. The industrial giants hoping to trade their know-how for the assurance of future oil. They come with plans for joint ventures with the Saudis, chemicals and steel and petrochemicals. And the bankers of the world, from the United States, from Britain, from Iran, are here to serve them all. What you see here may look ordinary. It is not. Though the Saudis are hospitable, rarely is a foreigner invited to a party in a Saudi home where men and women mix. In Jeddah, at such a party, we talked with the assistant dean of the segregated women's university.
I can't go out by myself alone. I can't walk without wearing something around my hair. I don't cover my face, but most of the girls here, they have to cover their face. They have to veil themselves. And also, there is no dating. You can't get in touch with men easily. I mean, it's our tradition that we can't sit with men. Women liberation here is different than the women liberation in the States. Here, we don't want to be like men. But at the same time, we want kind of liberation to to make us feel that we're a human being.
Nevertheless, Saudi Arabia is nudging its way into the 20th century. Some say it will change more in the next decade than in the past 100 years. King Faisal's major concern, what to do with all the oil profits. Some say $20 billion a year. The prospect is staggering. And with development and modernization, will there come permissiveness? Will ancient Saudi values be destroyed? Sheikh Yamani is optimistic. It is men like him, the royal princes, the ministers, the technocrats, mostly trained in America. Will they remain true to the spirit of Faisal's conservative policies and traditions?
I'm so ambitious. Now I want to preserve the very nice traditions we have in this country. And I want to see all of the Saudis educated. I want to see them happy. I also want to see the country industrialized. I want to see a substitute for this oil revenue, which won't be here sometime in the coming century. What we have to do is not to let this huge income facing us spoil our character or weaken our personalities.
Sheikh Yamani told 60 Minutes this afternoon that under the agreement signed yesterday in Washington by Henry Kissinger and Prince Fahd of Saudi Arabia, the U.S. will have a giant role in the future industrialization of Saudi Arabia, in manpower training, as well as in the expansion of its military capacity. They will be the closest ties ever established between an Arab country and the United States.